Hello, Mr. President. It's a delight to address you this end of year. May I start first by wishing you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to both you and your entire family. We do appreciate you, Mr. President, I in person do appreciate you, Mr. President, for all this while you've been at the helm of leadership in this nation. Of course, 30-something years is not 3 months or 3 days. It's been an enormous move in terms of your leadership. And I must, with all vigor, admire how much you have stood to take care of us. Congratulations, Mr. President. I haven't observed the train of things recently, Mr. President. There are 3 issues maybe I would like to address or crave your indulgence into, which of course, the first one would be strong institutions. Mr. President, you've been at the head of multi-party politics in this great republic, great nation of ours, which of course I must appreciate you for the courage. You took, it's not easy. And to add to that, based on the fact that you are a technocrat, I will want to encourage your indulgence for strong institutions, no more strong men. Because, Mr. President, when I look at the train of things and I look at how much time is left for you, I see that it's time, what do you think, for us to have strong institutions and no more strong men in leadership? What do I mean by that? We need a system where we have separation of powers. When we have separation of powers, we have strong institutions and not strong men that lead. For when we have strong institutions, even when we don't have strong men that lead, there's enough in terms of an enormous sense in terms of checks and balances, which of course permits good governance even if the man in power is not strong enough. For you, indeed, you have been a strong man in power and we do appreciate it. But after you, we are not sure to have a strong man. And so the separation of powers through or under your leadership, just like you did with multi-party politics, will do enormously for this rising generation that we are. Mr. President, this I mean is that the legislative, the judiciary, and the executive end needs separation of powers. Decentralization of powers will definitely make a difference. Permit me express a few observations I must have carried on. We do elect mayors that run the council. But after we've elected mayors that run the council, we have government delegates that are appointed. And so it makes it extremely difficult, the separation of the judiciary from the executive end in terms of leadership or good governance. Still, the people are left under a banner that they can fully express themselves and depend on the separation of powers that are required. Permit me also address the issue of the Senate body. Mr. President, we have some senators who are appointed and others being elected. Still again, the separation of power there, it's a little difficult to understand. And so goes to the judiciary and many other aspects in terms of governance. You've been so strong that having to embody all this, we have been able to make the progress. But beyond the progress that we have attended, I feel, Mr. President, that time could be weighing on us. What do I mean by that? You're 80-something years, Mr. President. Permit me crave your indulgence. I'm not saying that you got less time again, because I'd love to have you as long as God wishes, but when we look at realities, we have to face realities. We start looking at things objectively. And so, we need strong institutions. And it's only through your leadership, Mr. President. Now that you are alive and strong for us, Mr. President, that strong institutions placed under your banner could be well adhered. Mr. President, that comes will require that under you, let us see the transition from strong men to strong institutions. Strong men to strong institutions. And so, under your leadership, permit me say, number 2 is that we will also need transition of power. We would like you to be our mentor, we would like you to be our coach. Because when I look at a place like Côte d'Ivoire had a very strong man just like you. Of course, you're of the same generation. He did an enormous job in Côte d'Ivoire. But at the end of the day, he left without strong institutions, but strong men. And look at what became of Côte d'Ivoire after his departure. Permit me, Mr. President, as I crave into that indulgence, that we need a transition through. Teach us how to have alternative leadership and a transitional tendency. You're the only one to do it, based on the fact that you are a strong man and you are a technocrat, and that we want to get into that joyous and auspicious move that can only be achieved through you. Look at how much time is left, Mr. President, under your leadership. We'd love to have you take upon, turn again. But sometimes it wouldn't be the case. And so when we look at time factor, we're cut in between to say we love our president, but at the same time, under your leadership, we need you as a coach now, as a mentor, to carry on the transition. So that if tomorrow you need to bid us goodbye in whatever way God may choose, Mr. President, we should be glad that under your leadership, you were able to institute strong institutions, separating or having a transition from strong men or strong man leadership to strong institutions to foster the growth of democracy and good governance. Mr. President, last but not the least is the notion of the king's men. The king's men, there are many of them, several of them that have stood to make sure that you stand for these 30-something years. You will agree with me that you needed these men around you to make the best of your leadership. Permit me to call a few. There are several of them, but I just want to call a few based on the last election, Mr. President. When I look at a man like Barrister Ghogomu, as he addressed the Constitutional Council, I saw a man who deep within him was grief. Well, if that's not the case, I know one day they will have to express themselves, but permit me to speak what I feel or what I have observed. When Barrister was talking, he mentioned the fact that we've all fought for this republic. We've fought enormously for this republic. My father fought enormously. And I was poisoned in the course of this fighting. I, in quotes, Barrister was poisoned. And so I saw a sense of frustration within him. Like to say, We have been sacrificing for you to be at the helm of leadership all this while. We will all fought for this republic, but it's like you don't want to give us the opportunity to express ourselves at the helm of this leadership. The seat of the presidency. Professor Camto. When I heard Professor Camto talk after the election at the Constitutional Council, I saw a man within the rhetoric of the flashback. When he came back from Bakassi with the entire team, and after we won the Bakassi Star, every question that he was asked in front of the media, he attached it to Mr. President. In fact, we have a strong president. We have a strong leadership. In fact, Mr. President has done a great job. He's a great leader, and I have so much admiration for him. Now, I'd like to say, we're giving everything to you, Mr. President. We play the game for you. We're there for you, and we make sure that you take the credit. When I look at his face at the Constitutional Council in front of my TV, I saw somebody who was like, "Oh, can't you understand that all this while we've been standing for you and fighting for you, and that just permit us also sit at this seat. Permit us also be at the helm of the leadership of this nation. We've played the game for you all this while. But will you cover the period of this generation? Because the next generation will not give them the opportunity. How old are they? When you look at their ages, how old are they? And we've not had the opportunity to leave. We wouldn't say everybody has to leave, Mr. President. But if you've been there for 30-something years, they'll at least expecting that you will also give them the 5 or 10 more years that is left before it goes to the younger generation. But if you're going to stay there all this while and keep staying there, Mr. President, there is a sense of frustration within the King's men. Permit me say, may I crave the indulgence to say it again, Mr. President. They are grieved. It's like you're not giving them the opportunity to express themselves at the helm of the leadership of this nation. That's the greatest frustration. The greatest frustration is not that Mr. President didn't win the election, but we want to see a man that can win, but that can also let go after he has won, to prove to us that our sacrifices that we made years after years, for 30-something years, this man takes cognizance of that sacrifice by also letting go after he has won the election. That's what I felt. The third person I actually want to mention here, of course, even though there are several of them within the Kingsmen, is Aminatu Ayijo. I'm glad to see what is happening, the cooperation between your family and her family. It's a wonderful thing. But permit me say, when I watched the last election and I saw her campaigning up north, the Grand North, I didn't see a full sense of fulfillment, Mr. President. Just permit me express my mind, because there are lots of people around who might not express themselves to you, Mr. President. But I know I'm talking to a father, and I know he's listening to me. He's actually giving a keen attention to what I'm saying. I don't think this lady is fulfilled, campaigning for you and putting in her best as a Kingsman without an official burial of her father. This is the truth, Mr. President. And if issues are going to live from one generation to the other, then you're going to leave us under chaos, Mr. President. The Kingsmen have been dying for you. They've been fighting for you, Mr. President. And as a man of the church, permit me just express my heart and my mind and the way God may see things. because I know you are our Father. And so, the numerous things that are going on and how much difficult the king's men might feel at this hour, they want you to feel for them, Mr. President. We know, of course, that by the time you took power, of course, within time, many things happened, and you have your own grievances, of course, which of course are normal, that those grievances are there. Everyone is human. But I wish to plead with you, Mr. President, that the king's men will need you. It's time they need your help. Their generation shouldn't just wipe off without them also having to sit at the head of that leadership, just as you've been there for 30-something years. Even if they were just to sit there for 5 or 10 years before the new set of generation come in place and definitely make a difference as well, and everybody takes a turn. I'm not saying all the king's men will definitely have the opportunity, but at least if one of them were to sit there, it will make a difference. It will actually show that their sacrifices was not misunderstood by a great leader. And history will always talk about you, Mr. President, for what you did. I know that there are several people who are fighting to destroy your legacy. But permit me, Mr. President, say, there are also a few within the king's men that are ready to protect your legacy. They wouldn't mind. But this, of course, like I say, has to be from a genuine tendency, where conscience is brought to bear. Conscience is brought to bear. Mr. President, it is sometimes difficult to want to express and say the deep things that probably no one will say. Probably it's difficult for them to say, they are afraid to say it, they might not know how to say it. But I ask God for wisdom and guidance to approach your very high office, because it's not easy to speak to a father, it's not easy to speak to a dad, especially a man of great caliber like you. But I know that my few words unto you, Mr. President, will definitely make a difference. We want a transition under your leadership, not when you're gone, Mr. President, when you're still alive. We want to use you as a mentor, as a coach, to do that transition. I do admire Ghana so much. Ghana, Rawlings did it for his nation, and after Rawlings you see the succession of leadership that has been, and the transition and alternative of power. And Ghana is the most peaceful and one of the most successful nations in Africa. You being a technocrat, Mr. President, I know you can do something for Cameroon. Please don't go with your expertise. You are the right person, you are the technocrat, and we trust you to do it for our nation. That transition with so much when you dive in under your leadership and under your guidance. Permit me, Mr. President, say once more, please forgive me if I might have hurt you or said things that I ought not to have said, but I felt hurt. I just needed to open the abscess and bring forth a sense of consciousness, of awareness, to how the king's men might be feeling and how some part of the nation might be feeling, Mr. President. Thank you so much for giving me that attention. And my prayer for you, Mr. President, is that God give you the grace as we face a new year and a new era probably under your leadership. God bless you and bless you.
Close the door, shut the world away. All the fight's gone from this wounded heart. Across the floor, dreams and shadows play. like wind-blown refugees. Call the man who deals in love beyond repair. He can heal the world of hearts in need of care. Shine a light ahead when the next step is unclear. Call the man, he's needed here. I close my eyes, I remember when your sweet love filled this empty room. The tears I cry won't bring it back again, unless the lonely star should fall. Call the man who deals in love beyond repair. He can heal the world of hearts in need of care. Shine a light ahead when the next step is unclear. Call the man, he's needed here. Needed in the chaos and confusion, from the place to city hall. Needed where the crowd who walk the wire are set to call the man, he's needed here.